Have you ever stopped to think about how fragile our world is? Seriously, how one single moment, a tiny difference of just a few millimeters, could have sent our entire history spinning off into a completely different reality? Well, today, we're going to explore exactly that. We're diving headfirst into a thought experiment that imagines a world where the Cold War had a very, very different winner. So, let's set the scene. The date is March 30th, 1981. We're outside the Washington Hilton Hotel. President Ronald Reagan, just a couple months into his first term, is walking towards his limo. Now, we all know this moment from the history books, right? But this is our jumping off point. The exact second where two timelines split forever. 6 shots ring out. And in our alternate timeline, that Secret Service code for the president, Rawhide, it isn't a call for help. It's a final report. Rawhide is down. The president is dead. And with that single bullet, the future as we know it dies right there with him. And just look at the two paths that fork from that moment. In our world, Reagan lives, the US economy pulls out of its slump, and the Soviet Union, well, it eventually dissolves. But in this other timeline, it's the complete opposite. The American economy absolutely craters, and a modernized, confident Soviet Union rises to become the world's only superpower. So how on earth does that happen? How does one man's death cause a superpower to crumble? Well, it all starts with what you could call a hollow presidency. George H.W. Bush is sworn in, but he's under this dark cloud of national trauma. He just doesn't have Reagan's charisma, that political muscle to convince the American people to swallow the tough economic medicine they needed to fight off inflation. And you can see the dominoes start to fall right here. Under massive political pressure, the Federal Reserve makes an absolutely disastrous call in late '81. They slash interest rates. And boom, look at the chain reaction. Inflation doesn't just creep back, it explodes, hitting over 30%. That leads directly to chaos in the streets, like the Detroit gas riots, and by the end of '83, the economy is in total freefall. If you want one number that sums up the sheer pain of this era, here it is, 28.4%. That's the misery index, just inflation plus unemployment, and it's the highest it has ever been in American history. We're not talking about a recession anymore. This is a full-blown depression, and it's poisoning every single corner of American life. But here's the thing, that pain was not shared equally, not even close. This chart makes that tragically clear. By 1989, unemployment for white Americans is already at a catastrophic 17%. But just look at the numbers for Black and Hispanic Americans, over 41% and nearly 37%. The economic collapse rips the country apart right along its oldest, deepest fault lines. It's a social catastrophe. So, while the United States is literally imploding, the story on the other side of the Iron Curtain is, well, it's one of incredible, unlikely survival. Just as America is fracturing, the Soviet Union manages to pull itself together thanks to a medical miracle and a surprisingly clever plan. Okay, so in our history, the reform-minded Soviet leader Yuri Andropov died from kidney failure after only about 15 months in power. But in this timeline, he gets a groundbreaking biosynthetic kidney. The surgery is a success, and it saves his life. This is absolutely crucial because it keeps a smart, pragmatic leader in charge long enough to steer the Soviet ship away from the iceberg. And with this new lease on life, Andropov puts a brilliant strategy in motion: the Novosibirsk Plan. At its core, it's a simple idea: computerize the Soviet economy. They link up thousands of state-run businesses, which lets them track everything in real time. This helps them slash waste and make everything way more efficient. Now, it doesn't fix the fundamental problems of communism, not at all, but it's enough to get stable growth, right as the West is going up in flames. And you know, a reversal of fortunes this massive doesn't just stay within borders. As the USSR gets its act together and the US falls apart, the entire global chessboard gets flipped, creating a new world order, one led by Moscow. The key to all this new power? It's the petro-ruble. Think about it, the US dollar is now worthless paper. The world desperately needs a stable currency. So the Soviets step in. They back their ruble with their enormous reserves of oil and gold. All of a sudden, if you want to buy energy to power your country, you need rubles. Just like that, Moscow is in charge of the world's financial system. The political fallout is just staggering. Look at this timeline. Europe completely realigns with breathtaking speed. Key US allies like France and Italy, they elect communist governments. NATO just dissolves. And then the real shocker. Germany reunifies. not under a democratic flag, but as a socialist republic friendly with Moscow. The Cold War is over, folks. The Soviets won. So, what does it feel like to actually live in this new reality? Let's jump ahead to the year 2026 and take a peek at daily life in this Soviet-dominated world. And the one thing you have to understand is that it's a world of universal rights, but also universal surveillance. And here's the engine of that control, the Social Responsibility Index. Every single person has a score. You can see how it works. You do something the state likes, like exceed your work quota, you get points. That gets you a better apartment. But you express the wrong opinion online or try to look at a blocked website, your score plummets. And you could lose your job, your right to travel, everything. It's total social control, run by an algorithm. And this slide really lays out the core bargain of this new world. On the left, look at the positives. Universal healthcare, almost no extreme poverty, a guaranteed job for everyone. The system provides a level of material security that capitalism never managed. But then look at the cost on the right. Total surveillance, no free press, and millions upon millions of people locked away in re-education camps. It's the ultimate trade-off, security for freedom. So what's left of the United States? It's gone, broken up into pieces. The agricultural Midwest is basically a puppet state for the Soviets. California's tech sector is still around, but now it just builds the hardware for its new masters. And a huge chunk of the interior has become a lawless, dead zone, where life is short and brutal, a permanent monument to the failure of the old world. So, what's the point of all this? Why take this grim journey into a history that never was? What does it tell us about our own world, right here now? Well, a thought experiment like this really drives home some powerful ideas. 1. History isn't a straight line. It can turn on a dime. 2. No system, capitalism or communism, is guaranteed to win or lose. And maybe the most unsettling idea is that, if pushed, a lot of people might actually choose security over liberty. And finally, that technology isn't good or evil. It's just an amplifier. It can be used to set people free, or it can be used to build a much more efficient prison. And that leaves us with the final, unavoidable question. This world, with almost no poverty but zero freedom, is it actually better or is it worse than ours? And there's no easy answer to that. A struggling factory worker in Mumbai might think it's a paradise. A dissident writer in Prague would call it a living hell. The answer completely depends on what you value most. Ultimately, this whole exercise is a pretty humbling reminder of just how lucky we might be. The world we live in wasn't inevitable. It was built on close calls, lucky breaks, and pure chance. The line separating our reality from a catastrophic one can be terrifyingly razor thin.